AIRWOLF once ruled the skies, a symbol of power, speed, and 80s heroism. Back then, the cast looked unstoppable, strong, fearless, and larger than life. But fast forward to 2026, and the truth is far darker than anyone imagined. Many of the faces you remember so clearly are no longer with us. What really happened after the engines shut down? Stay with us to see how time rewrote their stories. John Michael Vincent as Stringfellow Hawk. Jan Michael Vincent was born on July 15, 1944, in Denver, Colorado, USA. At 39 years old, he played Stringfellow Hawk, the brilliant but deeply haunted helicopter pilot, in AIRWOLF, 1984 to 1986. The role turned Hawk into the emotional core of the series, defining its tone of isolation, melancholy, and quiet intensity. On screen, he embodied control and precision. Off-screen, his own life was already beginning to fracture. His career once placed him at the absolute peak of American television, with earlier acclaim from films like Going Home and The Mechanic, followed by the breakthrough success that made him one of the highest-paid TV actors of his era. Yet as AIRWOLF elevated his fame, substance abuse quietly tightened its grip. Alcohol, drugs, arrests, and bar fights slowly eroding the discipline audiences believed he possessed. The contrast became cruelly ironic. While Hawk was portrayed as a man who mastered machines and danger, Vincent was losing control over his own impulses. Vincent's personal life unraveled in parallel. His marriage to Bonnie Poorman ended in 1986, the same year his AIRWOLF fame still burned bright, followed by a second marriage marked by restraining orders and allegations of violence. Lawsuits, probation violations, and public scandals replaced leading man headlines, turning his name into a cautionary tale of unchecked self-destruction rather than cinematic heroism. Then his body began to fail him. Multiple near-fatal car accidents in the 1990s left him with broken vertebrae and permanent vocal cord damage, stripping away even his physical presence. In 2012, complications from peripheral artery disease led to the amputation of his right leg, confining him to prosthetics and wheelchairs in his final years. Fame could no longer shield him from decline. Sadly, John Michael Vincent died on February 10, 2019, at the age of 74, from cardiac arrest while hospitalized in Asheville, North Carolina. His net worth at the time of his death was estimated at around $200,000, diminished by years of medical costs, legal battles, and addiction. The man who once soared above Los Angeles in AIRWOLF left quietly, his final chapter written not in spectacle, but in exhaustion. Ernest Borgnine as Dominic Santini. Ernest Borgnine was born on January 24, 1917, in Hamden, Connecticut, USA. At 67 years old, he played Dominic Santini, the seasoned pilot, mentor, and moral anchor, in AIRWOLF, 1984 to 1986. His presence grounded the series, providing warmth, humor, and emotional stability against its darker themes. Santini was the soul of AIRWOLF, the human counterweight to its cold machinery. By the time he joined the show, Borgnine was already a Hollywood legend, an Academy Award winner whose career stretched back to Marty and the Dirty Dozen. Yet longevity came at a cost. Relentless schedules, aging joints, and the quiet fatigue of a man who never truly stopped working. In AIRWOLF, his calm authority masked the physical strain and exhaustion he carried behind the scenes. His personal life reflected similar turbulence. Borgnine married 5 times, with early marriages collapsing under the pressure of fame, strong personalities, and constant work. Some unions produced children and lasting bonds. Others ended abruptly, including one infamous marriage that lasted only weeks. Stability came late in life, after decades of emotional trial and error. In his final years, Borgnine's health deteriorated as kidney failure forced repeated hospitalizations. Still, He continued acting well into his 90s, driven by an unshakable devotion to his craft. Finally, he passed away on July 8, 2012, at the age of 95, due to kidney failure at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. He was cremated, and his funeral was held with full military honors, honoring both his naval service and his cinematic legacy. At the time of his death, his estimated net worth stood at $15 million, the result of a lifetime of steady work rather than fleeting stardom. Alex Cord as Michael Goldsmith Briggs III, Archangel. Alex Cord was born on May 3, 1933 in Floral Park, New York, USA. At 51 years old, he played Michael Goldsmith Briggs III, known as Archangel, the sharp-minded CIA handler and political gatekeeper, in AIRWOLF, 1984 to 1986. His character gave the series its sense of covert power, moral ambiguity, and institutional tension. Archangel was not the man in the cockpit, but the man pulling invisible strings behind every mission. Behind that composed authority was a life shaped early by physical pain. Stricken with polio at age 12, Cord spent years hospitalized, isolated from other children while his family struggled financially to afford his treatment. Though horseback therapy helped him regain mobility, the illness left a permanent imprint. However, that quiet endurance later translated into the restrained intensity he brought to screen. Cord's career spanned decades, from westerns and crime dramas to cult television, with Stagecoach, 1966, and Genesis 2 marking earlier peaks. Yet it was AIRWOLF that gave him his most enduring identity. Off-screen, however, his private life carried heavy losses. He married 3 times, most notably to actress Joanna Pettit, with whom he shared a long marriage that ended in tragedy when their son Damien died of a heroin overdose in 1995, permanently altering Cord's emotional world and deepened his withdrawal from Hollywood. Health challenges never fully left him. The long-term effects of polio, combined with age-related cardiovascular problems, slowly narrowed his physical strength in later years. He retreated to Texas, raising horses and living quietly, far from the industry that once relied on his presence. Acting became selective, no longer a pursuit, but a memory. Sadly, Alex Cord died on August 9, 2021, at the age of 88, at his home in Valley View, Texas, due to health complications related to age and heart conditions. His estimated net worth at the time of his death was around $2 million, accumulated through decades of acting and his horse ranch. David Hemmings as Dr. Charles Henry Moffat. David Hemmings was born on November 18, 1941 in Guildford, Surrey, England. At 43 years old, he played Dr. Charles Henry Moffat, the brilliant but unhinged creator of AIRWOLF, in AIRWOLF, 1984. His character introduced psychological menace into the series, transforming technology into obsession. Moffat was the ghost inside the machine, turning AIRWOLF from action fantasy into moral nightmare. Hemmings's early life was marked by pressure and emotional strain. A gifted boy soprano during World War II, he lost his childhood to relentless performance and adult expectations, compounded by parental instability. Fame arrived early and violently with Blow Up, 1966, turning him into a symbol of swinging London before he had the emotional tools to survive it. Success did not heal him, it fractured him further. Though celebrated as an actor, Hemmings increasingly sought control behind the camera, becoming a respected director and producer, even directing episodes of AIRWOLF itself. Yet his personal life mirrored the instability of his career shifts. He married 4 times, with marriages marked by infidelity, emotional distance, and exhaustion from a party-driven lifestyle. Love, for Hemmings, often arrived intensely and ended painfully. In later years, chronic cardiovascular disease shadowed his work. Even so, he continued acting in major films such as Gladiator, Spy Game, and Gangs of New York, pushing his body despite clear warning signs. Work was not just habit, it was defiance. Tragically, David Hemmings died suddenly on December 3, 2003, at the age of 62, from a heart attack while on a film set in Bucharest, Romania. His funeral was held at St. Peter's Church in Blackland, Wiltshire, where he was buried. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at around $5 million, earned through acting, directing, and producing. He left behind a legacy defined not by peace, but by relentless motion until the very end. Eugene Roche as Senator William Dietz. Eugene Roche was born on September 22, 1928, in Boston, Massachusetts, USA. At 56 years old, he played Senator William Dietz, the calculating political power broker, in AIRWOLF, 1984. His character embodied the show's darker political machinery, where power mattered more than morality. Dietz added a cold, institutional threat that made AIRWOLF feel grounded in real-world corruption rather than pure fantasy. Roche's early life was shaped by hardship. Growing up during the Great Depression, he was forced to work from a young age as his family struggled financially after his father lost steady employment. The pressure robbed him of a stable education and left him carrying lifelong anxiety rooted in survival rather than ambition. That background later fed into his ability to portray men whose authority masked deep inner strain. His career stretched across stage, radio, film, and television, with over 100 supporting roles that made him one of Hollywood's most recognizable character actors. Audiences remembered him as Pinky Peterson on All in the Family and as the iconic Ajax Man in detergent commercials. But his dramatic work, especially Slaughterhouse-Five, 1972, revealed a capacity for sudden, shocking intensity. Roche specialized in playing ordinary men capable of unsettling violence. At home, his life was demanding in quieter ways. He married Marjorie Perkins in 1953 and raised 9 children, a responsibility that strained the marriage amid constant work and financial pressure, ending in divorce in 1981. A second marriage in 1982 brought stability, but years of stress and a growing heart condition took a toll that could not be reversed. Sadly, Eugene Roche died on July 28, 2004, at the age of 75, from a heart attack at a hospital in Encino, California. His estimated net worth at the time of his death was around $1 million, earned through decades of steady acting and advertising work. He left behind no stardom mythology, only the quiet legacy of a man whose face made authority believable. Philip Bruns as Mitch the director. Philip Bruns was born on May 2, 1931, in Pipestone, Minnesota, USA. At 53 years old, he played Mitch, a government director and bureaucratic overseer, in AIRWOLF, 1984. His role reinforced the series' theme of institutional control pressing down on its heroes. Mitch was not a villain, but a reminder that power often wears a calm, administrative face. Bruns' childhood was marked by physical and emotional strain. Raised on a struggling farm during the Great Depression, he endured hard labor from an early age, shaping a quiet resilience that stayed with him for life. Those years instilled discipline, but also a deep fatigue that followed him into adulthood. Acting became less an escape than a way to endure. His career unfolded largely in supporting roles, where reliability mattered more than recognition. He was widely known as George Shumway on Mary Hartman, and appeared in films like The Stuntman, 1980, while also earning an Obie Award for his stage work. Though he briefly played Morty Seinfeld, he was replaced early on. A small but telling example of how close he often stood to larger fame without ever fully touching it. Bruns married twice, maintaining relatively stable relationships, though his career demands created long periods of distance and quiet tension. In later years, age-related decline slowly narrowed his world, but not his reputation as a consummate professional. Sadly, Philip Bruns died on February 8, 2012, at the age of 80, from natural causes at a hospital in Los Angeles. His estimated net worth at the time of death was around $1 million, accumulated through acting and writing rather than celebrity excess. He exited the world as he lived in it, understated, disciplined, and largely unseen by those who never looked past the leading men. David Carradine as Dr. Robert Winchester. David Carradine was born on December 8, 1936 in Hollywood, California, USA. At 48 years old, he played Dr. Robert Winchester, a brilliant but morally unstable scientist, in AIRWOLF, 1984. His character embodied intellectual obsession and emotional fracture, adding psychological unease to the series. Winchester was not a soldier or politician, but a warning about genius without restraint. Carradine's life was marked early by deep psychological trauma. Raised in a famous but broken acting family, he was sent to boarding schools, foster homes, and institutions where he suffered abuse and severe emotional neglect. These experiences planted patterns of addiction, self-destruction, and instability that followed him into adulthood. Fame did not rescue him. It amplified his inner chaos. His career, however, was immense. He became an icon as Kwai Chang Caine in Kung Fu, earning Emmy and Golden Globe nominations, and later achieved a powerful resurgence as Bill in Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill films. Yet behind the success were repeated arrests, substance abuse, and volatile behavior. Carradine married 5 times, with relationships frequently collapsing under addiction, violence, and emotional volatility. Health problems compounded over the years. Long-term alcohol and drug abuse weakened his body, while risky behaviors never fully disappeared. Despite claiming to be in excellent shape late in life, his physical condition was fragile, sustained more by denial than recovery. His estimated net worth had dwindled to around $500,000, heavily reduced by divorces, legal issues, and inconsistent work. Finally, David Carradine was found dead on June 4, 2009, at the age of 72, in a Bangkok hotel room, having died from asphyxiation. Authorities ruled the death accidental, linked to autoerotic asphyxiation. He was buried at Forest Lawn, Hollywood Hills. His death echoed the contradictions of his life. Brilliance intertwined with danger, fame shadowed by unresolved pain. Richard Lynch as Gerald Van Dorian. Richard Lynch was born on February 12, 1940 in Brooklyn, New York, USA. At 44 years old, he played Gerald Van Dorian, a cold, menacing antagonist, in AIRWOLF, 1984. His presence reinforced the show's sense of lurking danger and moral threat. Van Dorian felt less like a character and more like a force. Lynch grew up in a harsh urban environment shaped by poverty and street violence. That tension hardened him early, but it was a catastrophic moment in 1967 that changed everything. Under the influence of LSD, he set himself on fire in Central Park, suffering burns over more than 70% of his body. The scars permanently altered his face and unknowingly defined his future career. Hollywood cast him almost exclusively as villains. Lynch became legendary for playing dangerous men in films like Scarecrow, The Sword and the Sorcerer, Invasion USA, and Battlestar Galactica. Though rarely a leading man, he appeared in over 160 roles, earning a Saturn Award and a Tony nomination, proving his talent extended far beyond menace. Acting became both livelihood and redemption. His personal life carried deep sorrow. He married twice, but his first marriage ended amid emotional strain and tragedy when his son Christopher died in 2005 after a prolonged illness. Lynch remained sober after his accident, channeling discipline into music, acting, and quiet spiritual routines. Financially modest but stable, his net worth was estimated at around $1 million. Sadly, Richard Lynch was found dead at his home in Yucca Valley, California, on June 19, 2012, at the age of 72, having suffered a heart attack. His death went unnoticed for days, discovered only when friends grew concerned. He was remembered not for glamour, but for resilience, a man who turned pain into presence and scars into legacy. Jean Bruce Scott as Caitlin O'Shaughnessy. Jean Bruce Scott was born on February 25, 1956, in Monterey, California, USA. At 28 years old, she played Caitlin O'Shaughnessy, a former Texas Highway Patrol helicopter pilot, in AIRWOLF, 1984 to 1986. Her character brought emotional grounding, technical credibility, and human warmth to the series. Caitlin was the conscience inside the cockpit, balancing danger with empathy. Although her childhood appeared stable, it carried quiet strain. Raised in a military family, Scott moved frequently due to her father's service, forcing her to constantly adapt and rebuild friendships. The instability shaped a deep sense of discipline, but also a lingering loneliness that followed her into adulthood. Her career flourished steadily rather than explosively. Beyond AIRWOLF, she became widely known for her role as Jessica Bennett on Days of Our Lives and for recurring appearances on Magnum, P.I. She later transitioned toward theater and production, earning a Dramalogue Award for stage work. Acting gradually gave way to creative leadership rather than visibility. Scott's personal life remained comparatively grounded. She married Randy Reinholz, and although the marriage endured, the pressures of creative careers brought periods of distance and tension. That restraint, however, often meant stepping away from the spotlight earlier than expected. Today, Jean Bruce Scott is 70 years old and remains active behind the scenes in theater production and cultural arts programs. Her estimated net worth is around $1 million, accumulated through acting, producing, and long-term creative work. Deborah Pratt as Morella. Deborah Pratt was born on December 16, 1951, in Chicago, Illinois, USA. At 33 years old, she played Morella, a poised and enigmatic intelligence operative, in AIRWOLF, 1984 to 1986. Her presence added intellectual depth and quiet authority to the series. Morella represented competence without spectacle. Pratt's early life was shaped by racial tension, poverty, and identity conflict. Growing up in a multiracial household in segregated America, she absorbed discrimination early, carrying psychological strain that later fueled her determination. Survival demanded excellence, not permission. That pressure became her engine. Her career expanded far beyond acting. Pratt emerged as a creative force behind Quantum Leap, serving as co-creator, executive producer, head writer, and the voice of Ziggy, earning 5 Emmy nominations. She later produced The Net, directed for Masterpiece Theater, and published multiple novels. Her work consistently merged intellect, emotion, and social conscience. Her marriage to Donald P. Belisario, 1984 to 1991, was professionally productive but personally demanding. Long hours, creative conflict, and constant pressure strained the relationship, ending in divorce. Yet the partnership produced 2 children and one of television's most enduring legacies. Personal cost was inseparable from professional achievement. Now, Deborah Pratt is 75 years old and continues to write, produce, and develop new literary and television projects. Her estimated net worth is approximately $3 million, derived from decades of writing, producing, and intellectual property. Her influence outlived her screen time. Geraint Wyn Davies as Mike Rivers. Geraint Wyn Davies was born on April 20, 1957, in Swansea, Wales, UK. At 30 years old, he played Mike Rivers, a capable but transitional field operative, in AIRWOLF, 1987. His role arrived during the series' final phase, symbolizing change and uncertainty rather than stability. Rivers felt like a man stepping into a storm already in motion. Davies's childhood carried quiet tension. Raised by a Welsh minister father and a schoolteacher mother, he emigrated to Canada at a young age, struggling with cultural displacement and identity. Constant adjustment became a habit, not a choice. That early instability shaped his introspective presence and emotional restraint. His career later reached cult status with Forever Knight, where he portrayed Nick Knight, a vampire detective torn between immortality and morality. The role earned him Gemini Award nominations and international recognition. Unlike many television leads, Davies balanced screen work with a deep commitment to classical theater, choosing craft over celebrity. His personal life mirrored that balance, and its cost. Married to Alana Gwynn from 1985 to 2006, he raised 2 children, but the marriage ended under long-term strain from distance and career demands. He later remarried, carrying forward a quieter, more private life shaped by experience rather than ambition. As of 2026, Geraint Wyn Davies is 69 years old and remains active in theater, directing, and selective screen work. His estimated net worth is approximately $2 million, earned through decades of acting, directing, and stage leadership. His legacy rests not on fame, but endurance. Belinda Bauer as Gabrielle Adamauer. Belinda Bauer was born on June 13, 1950, in Sydney, Australia. At 34 years old, she played Gabrielle Adamauer, an enigmatic and emotionally guarded figure, in AIRWOLF, 1984. Her role added elegance and mystery to the pilot's atmosphere. Gabrielle felt distant by design, more symbol than confession. Her upbringing was materially comfortable but emotionally demanding. Born into a wealthy industrial family, Bauer grew up surrounded by expectation and quiet pressure to succeed. Privilege did not remove strain. It refined it. From early on, she learned to perform control. Her acting career flourished briefly but memorably. She appeared in films like Winter Kills, Flashdance, and later as Dr. Juliet Fax in RoboCop 2. Yet Hollywood never became home. In the mid-1990s, Bauer stepped away from acting entirely, choosing clarity over continuation. That decision marked a profound shift. Bauer retrained in psychology, completing graduate studies and opening a private counseling practice in Los Angeles. Acting had explored the surface of emotion. Psychology allowed her to address its roots. The transition was quiet, deliberate, and final. Today, Belinda Bauer is 76 years old and continues to work as a licensed psychologist. Her estimated net worth is around $1 million, accumulated through acting and long-term clinical practice. She left the screen without drama and found meaning beyond it. Bryan Cranston as Robert Hollis. Bryan Cranston was born on March 7, 1956, in Hollywood, California, USA. At 28 years old, he played Robert Hollis, a volatile, morally ambiguous guest antagonist, in AIRWOLF, 1984 to 1986. Though brief, the role sharpened the show's tension by introducing human menace rather than machinery. Hollis functioned as a pressure point, proving how fragile order could be inside AIRWOLF's world. Cranston's early life was marked by loss and instability. His parents divorced, his father walked out, and the family slid into poverty, foreclosure, and emotional strain. Raised partly by grandparents, he learned early what abandonment felt like, and how shame can settle quietly into a household. Those wounds would later inform the gravity he brought to darker characters. His career took years of grinding work before recognition arrived. After countless small roles, he broke through as Hal on Malcolm in the Middle, then redefined television drama as Walter White in Breaking Bad, a performance that earned 4 Emmy Awards and global acclaim. He later received an Academy Award nomination for Trumbo, proving his range extended far beyond television. Success came late, but it came complete. Cranston's personal life steadied where his childhood had not. His first marriage ended early, but his second marriage to Robin Dearden, whom he met on AIRWOLF, endured, grounding him through fame and pressure. Together they raised a daughter, and stability replaced the chaos he once knew. The contrast became his quiet victory. As of 2026, Bryan Cranston is 70 years old and remains active in film, theater, and production, while selectively returning to the stage. His estimated net worth stands at $40 million, built from acting, producing, and entrepreneurial ventures, including Mezcal. The man once shaped by abandonment ultimately authored his own permanence. The skies of AIRWOLF may be silent now, but the stories of those who flew with it still echo. Some found peace, some found pain, and some left this world far too soon. Which cast member's fate moved you the most, and whose journey surprised you? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another untold Hollywood story.